Okay. We are starting new breakout rooms after the sudden drop in connections. This is for the recording, by the way. Okay, let me see if we can do 3 rooms. No, we can't do 3 rooms right now. We're going to go back to 2, and I will just take group 3 if it comes. And now I'm going to shift around according to what we had. Just a moment. Oh, there it is. I had it. Okay, Josh, Shazib, and Shervon, you are all in group 1. Let me see what we have. Room 2. Okay, let me see who was in group. Ijaz, Shazib, Shervon. Naveed, Daniel, Josh, now you're going to be in group 2 now because group 3 has ceased to exist for the time being, and we'll just leave it out. If someone else comes in, I'll put them in one of the 2 groups we have. Ijaz is not back. Irfan, you were in room 2, and yeah, we'll just open those rooms now. Shabazz, I'm going to assign you back to room 2 for the present because that you need to make sentences. You need to make sentences. You can add words, but you have to use all those in the list. So Ijaz, it's good to see you again. Let me assign you to, you're going to be assigned to group 2. I think you were in group 1 before, but I only have 6 people right now, so I'm just making 2 groups.
Right, sir.
Shervon is not linked in yet. I think Shervon, you just need to click on the link. Welcome back, everyone. And let's take group 1 first. Naveed, Shazib, Shervon. Someone give me a sentence, and I will use a different camera so I can write. Let's see. I'm pointing at the right place. Down a bit more. That's the best I can do. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Ka lete,
That's Kal.
Kal. Ka lete tone,
Omicron or Omega?
Omicron. Kakon, Anthropon, Ek, Tas, Hamartias,
I need to write smaller. I think you can still see it. Amartias.
Te, Tau,
Okay.
Tau, Eta, subscript iota and circumflex upon the eta. Yeah.
Okay.
And Z.
With eta and iota
Eta,
subscript.
eta.
And again,
Iota subscripts and yeah. And its meaning it you are calling the bad man out of sin to life.
okay. Let's see in the group. Otherwise, we had oh, is this group 2? Ijaz, you spoke, or who was speaking?
Irfan.
Oh, Irfan. Okay, that's why I was looking. I can see Ijaz in the video.
Yeah.
And
Actually, Irfan Bhai wrote it. We discussed and he wrote it. He was already
Yeah.
working. Group 2
yes,
and,
yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, now let's look at the words that we had. In fact, let me share them instead of for just a moment. Share screen. Okay, here we have right. We have kakos, the adjective. We have ek plus the genitive, which it has to be genitive. It doesn't take, this preposition doesn't take any other case. Kaleta, you did. Now, this word we're missing, hagios. Hagia, hagion, the adjective. Hamartia, we've got. Now, here's your problem. This is actually the second person singular of zao, the verb, instead of the noun zoe. And I think, I'm not sure, oh, you gave me, okay, there's a misspelling. Did you intend, let's go back. This is our list. So let's stop sharing. Let me go back. Did you intend here to use here the noun, or did you intend to use the verb? Beteze. This is
It is dative case.
Okay, so you are intending to use the word zoe. That's
Yes,
what you were. That's what you were, which means life. But then you have to spell it right. It has to be spelled zoe. You can't leave off the omega. The spelling is zoe. The only problem here is you were asked to use the verb form zao in the second person singular zeis, which means if you go back to chapter 6, I think it is, no, chapter 8, sorry. I'm not sure who's speaking. Let me mute everyone for the time being. If you go back to chapter 8, you have the irregular conjugation of the verb zao. And the second person singular is ze, which is then you singular are living, or you live, simple present, either one. So here's a difficulty. You can't change it to the noun form zoe. And if you did change it, you need to spell zoe correctly. That would be the only mistake. Otherwise, this is here. Your use of the dative case here is correct, except the spelling must be zoe. But that's not what you were given. But still, you did a good job. Now because this is not an easy task. Let's see, I wrote down my own, and it's a little difficult to see. In order to change from the you plural to the you singular, I had to do some acrobatics. If you get my meaning, not literal acrobatics, just Greek acrobatics. From the bad sin, sin is always bad, so, but we're still making simple sentences. So, kakes hamartias. Notice that this is not alpha pure, this is, so I have to use ace and as here to get the genitive case. Ek, tes, kakes hamartias. Hamartias, alpha pure. So from the bad sin, all right, you are called. So much, that's okay, that's good. But now I have a problem because zeis is you singular. So I started a new sentence and joined it with kai. And so how am I going to switch to the you singular because I've started with the you plural? And doing this quickly, I decided to use Petre. I forgot to put him in here, so I put this arrow here in the vocative case. And Peter, you are living a holy life. Hagion Zoane. See what I did? I changed it to you singular by addressing Peter. Petre. I should actually put ha, because normally, even though it wouldn't, not in this case. If it's vocative singular, it usually leaves the article out. So Petre, Peter, addressing Peter, you are living, you singular, zeis, are living a holy life. I don't think Peter would be careful about agreeing to that sentence, but again, we're making sentences that we have the ability to make so far. Okay, see what I did in order to switch from the you plural to the you singular? You can do it any number of ways, but that was a little tricky. Okay, let's see what group 2 did. You had also, these are not easy to do. And team 2 was Ijaz, Irfan, Joshna, Shabazz. I don't know.
Yes, sir. We have done, sir. We have tried our level best. Please write it.
Sure, go ahead. Okay, just a moment. Let me switch paper. Okay.
Doko,
Okay, that's correct. You had to use that in the first person singular.
Mu, Mu, Agapetos, Huios,
I'm going to put huios here right at the end if I can get it in.
Agathos,
Let's see. I didn't understand which word are we using here. Agathos. Okay.
Agathos,
That's a gamma. Not a very nice one. Okay, that's a. All right, agathos.
Kai, Kai, Parakalite,
Parakalete, second
Yes, sir.
person plural.
Yes, sir.
Excellent work, folks. You're getting
Para-
you're getting these
Parakalite,
contracts.
te,
Eta,
eta with iota subscript. Te, khara with alpha subscript. Khara, alpha iota subscript. Khara. Sir, I think my beloved son is good and you are requesting the joy.
wow. You guys are doing excellent work, I have to
Thank you,
say.
sir.
Now, does anyone, we could add the word esteem here, right? We could have, but we don't have to, because in Greek, is and are sometimes understood and not recorded. So the fact that you didn't have, I think my beloved son is good, the word is not a problem. In Greek, in the New Testament, it'll sometimes be missing in a sentence like this. It's just understood. All right, Kai. Now there's
And-
one, I see one small problem. Does anyone see it?
Yes, sir. Tos huios is written, but how huios I will come.
Okay, excellent. This should be ha, huios, not toss. There is no such word as toss. So let's forget toss. Ha, huios, and you can put mu here. Normally it would be ha, huios, mu, my son. But if you're really emphasizing my son, then you could move it forward. They call that fronted for emphasis. If you know what fronted, to put at the front. And the grammarians say this word is fronted for emphasis. Dako mu, my son is good. Wait a minute. Agapitos. Sorry. Agapitos. We do need tos. It's part of agapitos is an adjective describing the son. So agapitos, huios, and because it is genitive, it would have to be two, but we actually don't need the genitive article here because we have mu. Now, if you put two, my beloved son, agapitos, tu huios, you might have that in the New Testament. Most likely you would not have the article to because you have mu. And it's specific, then it's my son. It's already specific, a specific son. And so it doesn't need the article. It's contained here. So agapetos is correct. Let's go back to what we had. Agapetos is correct, but there's still a small problem in the sentence. Excellent work, by the way. Shabash.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I think, and I request, you're using parakaleo as request. I summon. More often this
Parakalo?
word is used as more often, the most common use of parakaleo to call alongside. Kaleo, I call, para, alongside, I call alongside. Comfort, encourage, exhort. That's the most common meaning. In that case, I encourage you, enjoy. The dative case, or with joy, or even to joy, the dative case by itself would work. But if you're going to say, I am summoning you to joy, yeah, okay, let's use it. That's not a problem. No problem here. I'll leave it in the dative case. I was going to say accusative case, but no. I summon you in joy, to joy, with joy. We wouldn't know how to translate take, hara, without some context. So what you've done is almost perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. All right, let's, I want to come back to exercises. I'm probably not going to do that though. I need to share screen. And we need to look at we did spend just a few moments looking at the perfect tense. Show all the windows. Okay. I'm not sure I opened it. So I didn't. Give me just a moment and we'll open. Now, last time you were introduced show all the windows. Wait a minute, let me start over. Here we are. In your homework, if you did your homework, there's lots of people who didn't or not doing their homework. Again, I realize that's work. It is work, lots of work. You have families, you have jobs. You're still going to have to do your homework. And if you haven't done homework, do it. Get it in. Even if it's way late, it's still worth something. You cannot rely upon Saturday sessions, tutoring sessions alone. I know that Zenari has been a great help to you. I can tell because this class, I've said before, is one of the best I have had in terms of where we are currently right now. But if you're really faced with a good oral questions, I think some of you would come up short because some of you are not there yet. And the only reason is that you haven't done your homework. So you need to do it and get that practice. This foundation is essential for Greek 2. All right. The imperfect tense. We're going to use chapter 22 here because chapter 22 is, the author has designed chapter 22, and a lot of the exercises, not all of them, but a lot of the exercises to be able to be used right after chapter 10. We continue to use chapter 11 to review part 1 of the textbook, which is chapters 1 to 10, the main part of Greek 1. But we're going to learn the imperfect tense because we have time for it, and because it will, especially for those who aren't going on to Greek 2, it will give you a sense of the past tense without learning the aorist tense, which would be much more. Aorist tense is one of our major tasks in Greek 2, or Dr. Kenneth's major task in Greek 2. The imperfect active, and we'll talk about translation into English in just a moment, is taken by taking the present tense and adding the imperfect addings, but for the first time we have what we call an augment, which is another way of saying prefix. Now, we have two different kinds of prefixes in Greek, and one is called the augment, and another will be in Greek 3, the perfect tense, and that's called reduplication. So that's why we use two different words. Instead of using prefix, we have two different kinds. So we call this an augment. And the augment is usually epsilon. We just add an epsilon to the present stem of the verb. And so if you're thinking in terms of verb stems, which I encourage you to do, Dr. McIver does it a little differently. Every Greek teacher does it, his or her own thing. But I think this is the easiest myself. Learn this as the verb stem, luo. Omega is the present tense ending, but now we're not in the present tense, we're in the imperfect tense, which we don't have in English. So we have to think Greek now. Lu on. I, and in just a moment, we're going to say, this is translated, I was loosing. Imperfect also means by nature that it is imperfect verbal action as well. It is, in other words, incompleted action. So I was loosing, not I loosed. That would be perfect. That would be completed action. Now, I don't confuse action with tense. There's only really two kinds of action: completed and incompleted, imperfect and perfect, or perfective, we should say. Imperfective action, perfective action. One looks at the action as being in progress, incomplete, and the other looks at the action as having been completed, and therefore is called perfective. Now that's how we describe the kind of action the verb expresses. That is not the same as tense. We have 5, maybe 6, depending on how you divide them, tenses in Greek. We've learned, so far we've only learned one, the present tense. I'm giving you a second one now in chapter 22, the imperfect tense. And the way we form it is augment, verb stem, and the endings on, es, in, amen, ete, on. Now, ete, we know from the present tense already, you plural. The rest of them are new and we have to memorize: on, es, in, amen, ete, on. And if you're making up little songs like I used to do to learn Greek, then you have O-A-C, omen et usi, O-A-C, omen et usi, okay, and so on. And then you add the imperfect as a kind of soprano solo. Sounds awful, but that's how I learned Greek, making up silly songs. However you do it, just repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, get it in your head. The endings of the imperfect, they're easy actually. You just go on, s, in, omenet, on, s, in, omenet, on, s, in, omenet, on. Now we do have a second set, which will be the middle passive, like you had with the present tense. You have then the chapter 9, the deponent verbs. And there you had omai, e, etai, ometha, estha, ontai. Okay, so this is actually the third set. And the imperfect, middle, and passive will be the fourth set, but we'll work on those in the next class. Now, there are some irregular imperfects. For example, if you have the verb like estheo, which already has an epsilon at the beginning, I eat, in order to make it an imperfect, you have to lengthen that to eta. So epsilon plus epsilon equals eta, estheon. So I was eating. Now you understand why I like to translate the progressive present, because then the imperfect is easy to translate. I am eating, estheo. I was eating, estheon. Now, there are some more irregular imperfects, and we just have to memorize and know them. But remember that in Greek, in our textbook, he's actually introducing us to almost all of the main words used in the New Testament. And you've already memorized some of the most common verbs in the New Testament. Now, not by a long shot can we translate the New Testament yet, but we're getting there. We could actually start some work in 1 John. Once we have the imperfect down, we probably won't have time to do much, but we might do something. I wish, present tense. I want, thello. I was wanting, athelon. Now, this does not start with epsilon, so I would ask myself, why eta instead of eta? Instead of epsilon as the augment. I don't know. Alexander the Great must have had a bad day, so he decided that the augment for this verb is going to be eta instead of epsilon. Was it Alexander the Great? You can blame everything on Alexander the Great. He was a great general, probably wasn't a great grammarian. Actually, somebody else probably did it. But anyway, perhaps the West Greeks and Italy, because the Romans spoke Greek. Greek just sort of invaded the whole empire, just like English kind of invaded the whole world today. So maybe the Eastern dialect of Greek came into the Western dialect, and all of a sudden they heard epsilon, and I don't know. Anyway, we have this irregular form with thello. So you have to remember that the augment with thello and the imperfect is not epsilon, it's eta. As
Sir, I have a
though,
question.
yes,
Sir, can I ask a question, sir?
yes, you can.
Sir, all verbs which will start from epsilon, we will always put eta with them. For example, echo.
Yes, it will lengthen to if you add an augment, it will lengthen to eta. I don't think there's an exception to that. At least I can't think of one.
And sir, another question, the ending of first and last is same. How will we?
Shabash.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very good.
And
Very
how?
very observant. You don't know if it's I or they. You
Yes,
don't
sir.
know. You don't know without context.
Okay, sir. Context will tell us that we have
That's
to
the
put I or they.
That's the only way you can tell, which is why in the answers in the textbook, if you notice for the exercises for this chapter, for this ending, you will always put I/they, because either one is possible. Without
Okay,
the
sir.
sentence, unless I know if I have a subject like Peter and John, then I know it's they wish. But if I have a singular subject, then I know, or if I have a context that is, I want food, a trophy. So it's trophy we haven't had, but it's food, general food, or bread. Let's take bread. We've had that one. Artos. I want bread. Then or I eat, no, not eat, I need another verb. I love bread. Agapao. Agapo arton. I was loving bread. Then alpha plus epsilon changes again to eta. Athelon. I was loving bread.
Sir,
No,
I have
no,
a bit.
no. Sorry. I shouldn't have used agapao, because they're gonna have, then we have another contraction. We have on plus alpha becomes on, omega. So we have to watch out for contractions on both sides now. What is another verb? Let me finish your question, and then I'll let you ask again. If we use okay, arton, let me use another verb. I'm trying to think of verbs, not akuo. That again, I hear, I take. All right, lambano, lambon, lambon on. Okay, let's put the augment. I could switch cameras, but I won't right now. Put the augment on, and then lambon, and then the ending on, lambon on.
Sir, I have a.
It could be I was taking, or it could be they were taking, either one. Now, okay, your question again.
Sir, I have a confusion because I have done the exercise 22.1 15 questions. Where we have to put epsilon and where we have to put eta. I was a bit confused because a lambano, why we are not putting epsilon? This is my confusion, sir.
We'll come back to it. There are some exceptions, and that you just have to get used to. We do have contractions. Laleo becomes a la loon, because the on combines with the epsilon, and this contracts to un. I was speaking. Ep erotao, I ask, becomes ep erotone, because alpha and omicron contract to omega. If you've learned your rules of contraction back in chapter 8 for alpha omega verbs, then you recognize why it's omega. And we have to watch out. But if we know the verb, first of all, we have to know vocabulary words. If you don't know the vocabulary words, you haven't done your homework, in other words, then the rules of contraction will confuse you completely. But then if you have, first of all, you see ep, but here's the thing. verbs that are formed by adding a preposition to the front of them. You know, we have erotao means I ask. We also have ep erotao because we add the preposition epi. Drop the iota and it becomes ep erotao. Means the same thing basically as erotao. Why? I don't know. Alexander the Great decided, maybe it was ep erotao when he decided, we're going to make this simpler. I'm going to say erotao. Usually languages simplify with use rather than becoming more complicated. At any rate, what happens is the augment is here, not here. So the ep stays, but the augment is, the lengthened vowel is here. So ep ero tone. So we have two contractions going on. We have an epsilon augment added here, ep erotao, and becomes ep ero, and then we have another contraction here with the first person singular and the third person plural. So I was asking, or they were asking. Remember that an author chooses his tenses intentionally, and if he chooses the imperfect, he wants to express either one of two main things. And we'll note what they are and we get to translation. Now, here's an epsilon omega verb, peripateo. What happens when you add the augment? Remember, this is a preposition added to the front. So the augment gets added here after the preposition, peri-epatun. And again, because this is an epsilon omega verb, we have a contraction u instead of on. I was walking, or they were walking. Now, you're probably also wondering, why not the circumflex accent? I don't know. Forget accent rules now, because they're not going to help us. The accent's here, very patun. Let's look at echo. Echo is irregular. It doesn't do what you think it should do. Again, Alexander the Great, I'm sure, is at fault for this. That's a joke, by the way. I hope you realize that. We add the augment, and instead of becoming eta, in this case, it becomes eta iota, echon. And it sounds like we made eta out of it when you pronounce it, but it's a little more like your abkesa he echon. Some would argue we're still not pronouncing it correctly because there's a tendency to use modern Greek pronunciation now in learning ancient Greek. The problem with that is that most teachers don't do that. And if you go into graduate work in the New Testament, you'll probably be meeting teachers who use the traditional pronunciation. Mellow, I am about to do something. We haven't had this verb, we will have it later. It's one of those that has eta, like fellow, mellow. I was about to be doing something. I was about to be. That's as far as this verb takes us. I was about to be. I'm going to give an alternate translation in just a moment, but parakaleo, again, this is actually the same as peripateo, walking or walking about. Parakaleo, which we just had, I comfort, I encourage, I exhort, or I summon. Also a use of the verb, not the main verb use, but it's one. Pare kalun. See the reason? The augment, now you will probably say, why doesn't it lengthen here and become omega, which is what usually happens if epsilon joins alpha. But no, just have to remember it's not paro kalun, it's pare kalun. Here's the augment, and the ending is u instead of on, because it's an epsilon omega verb. Then we have some others which we don't learn until Greek 3. Some we don't need to worry about them right now. We have had me verbs, and it is worth learning. We don't know actually the present tense of didomi. Have we had me verbs? No, we haven't had me verbs. I'm thinking of Greek 2. Forget it. No need. No need for this one. It means you were giving. Didomi means give, but we haven't had me verbs yet. Alexander the Great was in the process of getting rid of these me verbs. Or somebody in his army. I don't know. Some linguist. I'm making a joke because I don't know. Okay. Now, we're not going, next time we'll work on the middle and passive. The thing you need to remember now is the English translation. And there are two possibilities. The one is one I've been using, which is the most common. I was loosing, you were loosing, he, she, it was loosing. Imperfect means the action. Augment, by the way, always puts the action in the past. This is what makes it past tense in English. The augment, not the ending. So even though the ending is on, s, in, it's on, what tells us the author wants us to understand the action happened in the past. Time is this. And augments, you can put this little rule in your head too, for the time being, until Greek 2. Well, it will become useful in Greek 2. Augments only incur in the indicative mood. But since we've only had the indicative mood, the indicative is the main mood we use for expressing in Greek and in English as well. I think it's the main one. It certainly is in Greek, New Testament Greek. The number of uses are the indicative mood. The indicative simply means making statements or asking questions, giving information. Then we will have infinitives, to eat, to do, to that don't have subjects. That's why they're called infinitives. And then we have subjunctive. I was, or you were going to, you might, should, you would, you could. Possibility or probability. So we have other moods coming, but we don't need to worry about them right now. Everything we learn right now, the Greek 1, is in the indicative mood, the mood, the main one, the word mood for making statements. Okay, now in the indicative mood, we have augments, and augments put the verb in past time. Count on it. The author wants us to understand past time. There may be some other factors that mitigate that, but overall, that's what we need to keep in mind. Two possibilities of translation. The one I've been using is I was thinking, I was wanting, athelon, eluon, I was loosing, you were loosing, he, she, it was loosing, we were loosing, and so on. The second possibility is I began to loose. That's another use of the imperfect tense, a common one, not the main one, but a common one. And so every time we see an imperfect verb, we will have to ask ourselves, what does the author mean? Does he mean that the action was continuing in the past, I was loosing, or does he intend us to understand I began to loose? By what we call an inceptive imperfect. That's just the term that we use. So I'm stop sharing now. And let's just look at the textbook. No, let's don't look at the textbook because we don't have time. You need, I took too much time. Let me take my camera back and look at you properly. So you need to read the textbook. And again, just one more moment. Just give me one more minute. Time gets away from me so fast. I just pressed on the Kindle version. I want Kindle. Why is it when you want something, okay, here it is. Yes, I accept. Why do I ask terms of use? For goodness sakes. My book is not showing up. The textbook. Okay, I'm going to use the second edition, which is ridiculous. Okay, it's not. I can't do it. I'm going to. All right. I said chapter 22 is designed so it can be used after chapter 10. I would like for you to actually learn these words, vocabulary 22, on page 216. I think that's a good thing to learn some new words. You've got time and you should make some progress. Some of you are not going on to Greek 2, I think, in which case, the more you take with you, the better off you are. So learn this vocabulary. A lot of it consists of irregular, imperfect verb forms. And the rest of them are like mellow, which is a very important verb to learn. I am about to do something. I am about. So if you learn mellow, hoop archo is another important verb because it's often substituted for me. I am. It's very, hoop archo is maybe a little different flavor, but basically means the same thing as me. But since it's commonly used, it's a good one. Phobos means fear. And that's also an important word to know. And of course, the good news, the gospel, euangelion, notice the double gamma. So you pronounce euangelion. You usually always means something good. Europe, by the way, that's a Greek word. Europe is the good land, the good place. That's how it got its name. It's not always so good now, 2,000 years later, or 3,000 years, or however many years, 4,000. I don't know how long people have been in Europe, long time. But that's how it got its name. But we're concerned about euangelion, the gospel, the good news. And to good news somebody or to proclaim good news is euangelizo, the verb. Then we have a preposition enopion with the genitive before in the presence of. So, but right now we're concentrating, and next time we'll learn the middle and passive. We're concentrating on the imperfect indicative. Now, notice the translation of the imperfect tense in 22.3. And he gives us two main possibilities. If you read these through, you should understand well what he is saying about the translation into English. Okay, section 22.3. You should have, I think in your homework, you should have done it already, but if you haven't, you need to now. All of these exercises in 22.1, you had in your homework for today. If you haven't done them, get them done. I will give some grace for the homework today. I'll give you until Thursday, but that doesn't mean I won't give you some more for Thursday, so you should be able, you should do it. All right, thank you for attending class, and you are free to go now.